Hey, what's up? The Analog Rytm 1.70 upgrade is here, and with it comes for the first time in a while, new addition to the Elektron sequencer, the Euclidean mode. Next to that, there are more features focused on the creativity and playability aspects of the Analog Rytm, and that's what we'll be focusing on in this video. We'll take a look at not only the Euclidean sequencer, but scales within Chromatic Mode, the random LFO slew parameter, the loop page function, and saving parameter locked triggers as sounds. All right, let's get started. Now, a double press of the trig page takes us into the Analog Rytm's Euclidean sequencer for this selected track. Every track on Analog Rytm has its own Euclidean sequencer, which can all have their own separate lengths. By turning on Euclidean mode, we change the way we enter in steps into the sequencer. To create a pattern within the Euclidean sequencer, we use the two pulse generator parameters. To start off simply, we'll use only one for now. When I adjust how many pulses happen on this track, the Analog Rytm will distribute the number of pulses within the selected length of steps as evenly as possible. The reason our length parameter currently says NA is because our Euclidean sequencer length will be tied to our current pattern length. But if we change Analog Rytm's pattern scale mode from normal to advanced, we can choose independent lengths of all tracks for this pattern. But we'll leave this in normal mode for now. This is a super fun and super fast way of creating interesting patterns. Also, say we have a pattern we like, but where we hear the 1 is not actually where we want it, we can then use the pulse rotation parameters to move either pulse generator 1 or 2 separately. Now let's add some more pulses, but on pulse track 2 for this selected track. Again, we can also rotate this to our liking. Now let's learn about Boolean operations. The Analog Rytm has OR, XOR, or XOR, and sub. These will use the events placed in our Euclidean pattern and create new patterns based on mathematical logical expressions. OR, which is set to by default, will trigger from both generators 1 and 2. Everything goes. XOR, which is the next one here, which stands for exclusive OR, will only trigger if the events from each generator stand alone on a step. If both events happen on a step at the same time, the event will not trigger. And requires both events to happen on the same step. Event generator 1 and 2. Otherwise, nothing will trigger. And lastly, sub means triggers from generator 1 are placed on the track unless generator 2 adds a trig on the same step as generator 1. And some final notes on the Euclidean mode. Yes, you can still add parameter locks to your pulses in the Euclidean sequencer, and if you come up with a pattern you like and you want to lock it in as a pattern, holding down function while turning Euclidean mode off will lock in the Euclidean pattern to a regular pattern. Page playback on the Analog Rytm lets us select which pages we want to play and loop. This is extremely helpful if you're trying to nail some parameter locks within a specific page of a longer pattern. While in normal playback mode, press and hold page. Depending on how many pages your pattern has, the trig 1 through 4 keys light up. While holding page, you can press trigs 1 through 4 to select which pages you want to play. For example, if you press trig 2 and then trig 4, pages 2 and 4 will play and loop while skipping pages 1 and 3. On top of this, you can also select which track you wish to be affected by the page playback selection. While holding page, press the pads to exclude or include a track to be affected by the page playback. Unlit pads show that a specific track is excluded and will instead play back all the pattern pages for that specific track. With the 1.70 upgrade, we can save the sound of a specific parameter lock step as a sound. Our sample on this track originally sounded like this. But after a few parameter locks on a specific step, I got it to sound like this. Now, by holding down this trig plus mute while in grid recording mode, I can save this trig sound complete with all the parameter locks added, making it super easy to recall this trig and place it around in future patterns to come. Scales are now available on Analog Rytm. Pressing function plus chromatic and going to pad scales, we can select from 36 different scales and change our root note. When the scale has less than 8 notes in an octave, the unlit pads will play the same note as the next pad up in our scale. Another addition in the 1.7 upgrade is the slew parameter for our random LFO. In this example, I have our random LFO going to the pitch of our sample. You can hear its hard steps between the different LFO values, and by adjusting our phase parameter, we're adding slew to the LFO edges, softening them up as they transition from LFO value to value. This is a great way to introduce a sliding, almost warble type effect to whatever destination your LFO is set to. Thanks again for taking the time to learn about the 1.70 Analog Rytm upgrade. And if you want to learn more about the machines I was using in the video today, or where to download the 1.70 upgrade, be sure to check out the links in the description below. See you next time. Peace.